I'm so excited to be here with you today to talk about the newest upcoming release from my own indie brand, Singe Beauty. And this is our upcoming palette, Agate Temptation. I did have a reveal dinner at Creator and Friends in Destin, which was honestly absolutely amazing. I wanted to try out something new for my brand, something different. We are still a new and growing brand, and I feel like it's very important when you start out something new to try out different things, like what works for your brand, what feels right for your brand. I always knew with Singe Beauty that I wanted this brand to be almost like on its own, not necessarily 100% tied to me. I wanted this brand to be able to be something that wasn't 100% in the future tied to my name, which is why I named my own brand Singe Beauty and not Angelica Nyqvist. So I will leave more information about this, and I will also leave our Instagram down below if you have Instagram and you want to follow along, because I did already show you this palette on Friday last week over on Instagram. But today we're going to be talking about this palette, and I say upcoming palette because as I am showing you this palette now, I do not have an exact launch date for this palette, but since I showed it on Instagram, I thought I'd show it for you here as well. So this palette will be releasing in May, and I'm keeping it a little bit vague because this palette has to go through customs, and that could be a 2-hour thing. It could unfortunately be a 2-week thing, and I don't know right now where I'm at in that process. But this is the second palette that Singe Beauty is releasing. We did have a palette last holiday season, which was the Galactic Visitor palette, and I also wanted to say we are very low on Galactic Visitor. We do not have that many left of the palette. I am aiming to restock it, but restocking takes a couple of months, so I just wanted to let you know that palette, we're pretty low on the stock. And this is also the reason why I'm not giving you an exact price on this palette at this very moment. Again, I will update you on this one. I did make this palette to be the same price as the other palette, which is $45. But since there are a lot of things going on in the US right now with tariffs and stuff like that, I do not know if I will be able to put this at $45. It might be a couple of dollars more. At this time, I just do not know. I need to have it pass through customs before knowing that. I know sometimes when I talk about things like that, people are like, the margins on makeup are so high, you can just eat the cost. No, I really cannot. If I am hit with, I have actually paid my tariffs already, but if I'm hit with even more tariffs at the customs, I will simply lose money selling this palette at $45. I know people think that the margins are just absolutely crazy bonkers on makeup. That is definitely not the case, at least not with indie makeup, and I know I speak for a lot of indie owners saying that. So this is what the palette looks like. It is the same kind of packaging as we had with the Galactic Visitor, but this has an agate slice on the front with the gilded details such as an agate slice would have when you have them like a coaster or something. And I am a big fan of rocks and stones and minerals. I know a bunch of you already know this. I did have a dream once upon a time that I was going to be a geologist. I did actually take geoscience for university for a year, and this is just me tying Singe Beauty into another one of my interests. I also am very proud that so far my covers of my palettes do represent the color story within. Also quickly, all the information of the palette, this does come with a unicorn as well that has the same kind of things and the same details. Ingredients, all of those things are going to be on the back of the palette. And when you open up the palette, it does look a little bit similar in how it's composed like Galactic Visitor. It has a huge, very high quality mirror, and then we have 16 different shades. This palette also has 10 mattes, and then it has 6 shimmers. We have a duochrome topper, we have a multi-chrome, we have a very wet look, glistening, glittery, like champagne gold topper. It's really beautiful. I know this is the kind of shade that a lot of people love, and I was so excited to include something like this. And then we have 3 very sparkly metallics in here as well. This is actually a palette that has a couple of like neutrals in here. We have browns, we have a gold, we have like a champagne gold, but I wanted this palette to be like a almost like neutral oranges meets greens, and I try to play it up as much as possible between the bright greens, the light greens, the dark greens, the murky greens, cool tones, warm tones, all of those things that I really love. And I have been wearing this palette so much and been playing around with this color story so much. In this video, I will show you 2 different looks with this palette, but just know I have so many more planned. And also, we do have a pretty extensive PR list. So I'm hoping we'll be able to show you even more looks from the people on our PR list as well, because already some of them have gone out to parts of a PR list, and then more of them are being sent out later, so that you'll be able to get as much information as possible. But this is very different in color story to the Galactic Visitor, and of course there are no repeat shades in this one compared to that palette. These are all new shades. We also have some different embossings in this one, and the embossings are actually the kind of different patterns that you can find, some of the different patterns that you can find in an agate slice. So we do have the dendritic pattern, and we also put that on the moss shade, and then we have the banded pattern, and we also put that on the AGATE shade. And AGATE is actually the old Greek word that's used for agates, where it like originates from, so I wanted to include that. And then we have geode, which is also something that you can find in agates. I did actually put that on plume as well. You can find plume patterns in agates as well, but all of the shade names here are connected to agates, either shapes that you can find in them, where you can find them, or the different kinds of minerals or shapes or just things that you can see in agates. I think that when it comes to naming, it's really fun, but it's also like just a cherry on top, because for me, the most important thing is of course the quality of the shades. And I've worked really hard to be able to give you pigmented, blendable, buildable mattes, and really just interesting shimmer formulas. And one of the things that I forgot to mention when I talked about my Galactic Visitor is that I have paid a lot of attention to making shades that last on your eyes, that gives you minimal fallout. Sometimes it's impossible to not have any fallout. Minimal fallout, minimal creasing, lasting all day. Because for me, I'm 41 years old. For me, that is very important, because there are some special shades out there that are super beautiful to swatch, but we don't buy palettes to swatch them. We buy them to wear them. And these shades are meant to be long wearing, so that you can wear them even if you're like me, you have hooded eyes, aging eyes, not maybe as firm lids anymore. That is something that I paid a lot of attention to when I made my shadows, because I want to make sure to create things that are wearable and just usable, and something that if you put it on in the morning, you will still have it on at the end of the day. So that was something that was very important to me. So I will give you more info about this. Once I have more info, it will probably be in a new makeup releases. You know, I have a show here on my channel where every week I talk about new makeup releases, and I will tell you more about when I have like an exact launch date. But we are aiming for mid-May. So let's cross our fingers and hope that mid-May is what's happening with this one. Also, again, if you want to follow along on Singe Instagram, that will be down below. You can also sign up for the newsletter for Singe Beauty on our website, and you will be able to be notified every time we have a sale, or when we have new releases, or if something is sold out and is being restocked. That is on our website as well. So let me show you 2 looks that I did with this palette. The first look was a very warm orangey look, which is the one that I wore in the new makeup releases that I had before I left for Florida. I've been gone for a week and a half. I also came back with a little bit of a tan, and I feel very happy about that. And then of course this look that I'm wearing right now, I'm playing with the murky greens together with the bright greens over here, and then the multi-chrome here on the lid that you can see is giving that peach going to gold, going to muted green, which I think is the perfect multi-chrome for a palette like this. I'm of course very, very proud of this. This is my brand after all. This is something that I like, and I work really hard to make sure that all the releases that I release is something that I'm very proud of, something that's very usable, and also something that's bringing something to this like community, because that's what I want to do. And I am of course also working on more things for the future. I'm very excited to see what you feel about those as well. This will probably be the last release before fall time though. I'm just letting you know right now. And yeah, let's get into the 2 looks. If you have any questions about this release, that is not what is the price, when it's being released, because again, I don't know any of these things right now, but I will keep you updated. Just know I am aiming for $45, but it might be a couple of dollars more depending on the tariffs. And I'm aiming for mid-May. That might be a little earlier or a little later depending on what happens with customs, but I did want to let you know about this palette since I already revealed it on Instagram. Okay, thank you so much for watching. Let's get into the 2 different eye looks, and just know I will have more looks with this palette, both here on YouTube and also of course in short form content. But let's dig in to the looks. This is actually the first time I'm sitting down to film with this palette. As you can see, I still have my curlers in my hair. I'm trying to let them rest a little bit, but I'm so excited to be able to show you. As I'm filming this, I'm actually using what is called the batch sample. So this one, I think you can hear, they're not even glued into the packaging, but they're the same, which called batch sample means that there are a sample of what the big batch is gonna be, so that I make sure that what I'm approving is actually what's ending up in the final product. So I'm pre-filming a little bit, and I am gonna do a fun look today, and I'm gonna do something orange. I'm gonna be using the 2 like yellowy orangey shades. I'm gonna be deepening it up, and we're gonna do like an orange, just monochromatic, bold, almost like orange smoky look, whatever that will be. So I'm gonna start with Volcanic, and I am gonna put that in the crease. I still have some hairs here that are like floating around. Could you like not be here? Is that too much to ask? And we are gonna start doing that in the crease, all the way from the inner part to the outer part, and then I'm gonna blend it out with that lighter color. And as you can tell, this is a little bit more of a reddish orange, something that's like a little bolder, almost like if, again, I used to read geoscience at a university level, and we used to go on excursions, and it almost looks like that kind of soil, like the reddish soil. It's been so many years ago that I actually don't remember what it's called, but we have a lot of that in Sweden, and it's almost like this color, and it's so beautiful. I did do the exact same shade under my eyes too, just to have that like smokiness go all around. So now we're doing AGATE, which is that like almost this color, almost Singe color, and we are gonna put that on the edge. AGATE is it is a mythological creature from Greek mythology, but it is also the word used for agate in Greek. So we are gonna be just buffing on the edge with this one, making it even warmer. I have this like, that's so annoying. Making the edge even warmer, and then we're gonna deepen it up with that deep brown. This is the first palette that I have ever done any like with Singe, but also like as a collab palette, where there are like actual neutral browns in here, and I'm excited for this journey for myself. I have been using them a lot. I actually really enjoy them, and I don't know, I'm excited to showcase more things. I can be more things than just rainbow, I say, as I look like this. So now with the small EO5, we are gonna do Dendric, which is the dark brown. And we are gonna do that in the outer corner before we go in with that really beautiful like orange metallic. And I am gonna focus that in the outer part of the crease and in the outer corner. And I'm just focusing and buffing and blending as we go. And the color of this one does remind me of the color of like cocoa powder, like it's dark and brown and a little bit more on the neutral side when it comes to undertones. And I'm gonna go back to Volcanic, and I'm just gonna buff a little bit on the edge because we don't want that dark brown to go out too far. So this is the color Fire, and I am gonna spray this because I want this to be as opaque as possible, and I also am putting this on top of some mattes, so I need to make sure that it is giving full impact. This one is a opaque metallic that has a warm sheen and some gold specks and like sparkles in there. It is such a cool shade, and I'm so excited to have this in here. I just think it, again, I named this Fire for a reason. Like, look at that. So fun. So this is the shade Silica, and I'm just gonna do a little bit in my inner corner. I'm not gonna do like a lot. I'm just putting it on my tear duct, a little bit around here. This is such a beautiful, like sparkly champagne gold topper shade. Like you can put it on top of shadows. You can have like just a really sparkly look on your lid on its own. It layers beautifully on top of other shadows because it has a transparent base. We have another gold in here that is called Gilded if you want to have more an opaque gold result, but this is more like a sparkly topper. And I'm just going to put that in my inner corners a little bit. And that is the look. Is that not so fiery and fun? And I just wanted to show you, like, you can go like really warm and toasty for the summer if you want to, or any of these shades of course can be mixed with each other, but if you use the oranges together, this is the fiery result you're gonna get. Okay, rollers are out. It's a little bit messy up here, but listen, we live and we learn. It's okay. I'm still trying to perfect rollers, and I feel like I am perfecting like the volume and the body of the hair, but I still haven't perfected this part. I will eventually. But what do we think about the look? I think it is so fun, so warm, so yummy. And I just wanted to show, like, this is how bold and how pigmented and how fiery you can make this if you combine all of those orange shades together. I of course will show you something not combining together as well, like how can you use them with other shadows too. I'll get to that as well, but I hope you enjoy the look. Let's get into the next one. So I'm back for my second look, and with the tan. Who knew 1.5 weeks in Florida would give you a tan? So I'm gonna do a little bit of a green look, and clearly I'm gonna do way many more looks with this palette. I made this palette, I love this palette, but I really wanted to show you and play with the murky greens versus the bright greens versus the cool tone greens. So I'm gonna start with Moss on a E08, and I am gonna put this one in the outer part of my crease. I thought we'd play a little bit with the multi-chrome as well, showing you how pretty that one is. I'm just blending and smoothing this out in the outer part of the crease and not in the inner part. We're gonna use the bright color there. So I put Moss in here because there is a pattern that you can get in agates that have like called the Moss, like a Moss agate pattern. So that's why we're doing that. And now I'm gonna go in with Banded, which again is also a pattern that comes into agates. I try to put cute names in here that made sense with agates, but also were like not too long or complicated. Although AGATE's, I guess, it does not fit that. We're putting that in the inner part, and here you can see the difference between this really bright Banded that is not a neon, but like it is a very, very bright, almost neon lime. And I'm using the exact same brush, so I'm just blending this in the inner part of the crease, tapping it on and just blending out the edge. So we have the difference between the more muted, warmer, and then the really, really bright one. We are gonna switch to a smaller brush. This is an EO2. This is FO2. Sometimes I call them EO2 and F. The small ones are for eyes. Those are the E brushes. And we are gonna be using, do we wanna keep it a little muted? I might do Slice, which is the darker, more murky green. I'll do that out here. This one is very pigmented and it picks up really easily. So make sure you're only like dipping your brush in the pan. For me, it's very important that you don't have to dig into the pan to get some product, but also like make sure that you're not swirling around because you will get a lot of product on your brush and in the pan, and there's really no need for that. So I'm keeping this in the outer corner, again, to deepen this shadow up. For me, there are 3 deepening up shadows in this palette. I wanted to make sure that there were some options. There's a brighter green, a more muted green, which is this one, and then the darker, like brown that I honestly think fits any of these shades. I've really appreciated deepening up with the dark brown these last couple of years. So let's do this one over here. And then let's go back with a little bit of the moss and put that over here. And of course the slice is, because there is a slice of agate on the front, an agate slice. I love those. I think they're so pretty. I have a bunch of them in Sweden waiting for me. I think it's so pretty. So I'm going to do the same on the lower lash line too. And then we're going to do the multi-chrome shimmer. So I'm going to use the shade Crystallized, which is the multi-chrome that is a peach going to gold, going to like a muted, almost mossy green. And we're going to put that on the entirety of the lid. And especially in different kinds of lightings, you will see this really beautiful, it is a really beautiful multi-chrome that is, it has a very visible shift, but it's not one of those like crazy bright shadows on your like lid, so it's like the best of both worlds. And I did spray it so that we can really foil it. I think you can see already here the green going to the peach. I think this is such a beautiful shade, and I worked really hard to get this shade to look exactly like this because I knew exactly what I wanted and what kind of a special shade I wanted this palette, something that would work with all the shadows in here. Because you know that's one of my, you can see here, the green going to the peach, and the peach is even more visible in not like a bright straight on front light. But you know from before that one of my pet peeves when it comes to multichromes is when brands include multichromes in palettes that have a shift that doesn't make sense for the color scheme. And I worked really hard to get something that I think makes sense in this palette. And I am very excited about this shade. So this is the shadow on. You can see the gold going to the peach, going to the green. I think it's beautiful, and it is a very strong shift on the lid, but again, it's not one of those bright, like really out there colors, because I know that's not for everyone, but I love that. I put a little bit of green in my waterline too, and we're gonna do now the cool toned, almost like a sage pastel, and this is Chalcedony, which is one of the things that you can find in agates. So I'm putting that in my inner corner so you can see the difference between the cool tone and the warm tone. And I love this kind of like contrast in between. You can see I'm dragging it up to really brush and blend. And I just like how this goes together. This has, like I said, just a hint of a green. This is a pastel. I myself would not recommend starting with this one in the crease unless you are looking for a more lighter look, because it will mix into whatever pigment you put on top of it and make that shadow lighter, which is just the nature of how white pigments work. So if you're looking to work with this shadow, I would recommend inner corner. I would recommend on the lid, brushing off edges. It is perfect for that. If you want to make your look a little bit more cool tone, brushing out the brighter greens with a shadow like this will make them a little bit more of the cool tone side. I think that this looks absolutely incredible. Let me dig up a little bit of mascara and a lash. Okay, so this is the second look, and I think it looks beautiful. And I feel you can really see the multichrome here, from the peach going to the gold, and then the muted green really going into this bright green eyeshadow. I just think this is so cool. I think this is like a wearable green look. I am absolutely obsessed with these colors. Of course, I created them, I choose these colors, but also I choose colors not just for me, because this isn't like the Angelica Nyqvist brand, this is Singe Beauty. I need to also make things that I think that will work for a lot of people, and I am extremely proud of what has been created with this palette, and I hope you enjoy it too. And like I said, if you are interested in knowing exactly when it's being released, I will talk about it here on YouTube, but also we have a newsletter and of course the Singe Beauty Instagram. And let me know which was your favorite. Let me know what you think about the palette down below. I hope you're having an amazing day, and I will see you on Friday for a new makeup releases.